What's up guys, my name is Ace, and now that Black Ops 7 has been out for a few days now, and I've managed to get through my first Prestige, I figured it was time to provide my initial impressions, what I'm liking about the game so far, what I'm not liking, and some key bugs that I've noticed. However, before we get into that, just a quick note here, you're going to be seeing this on my main channel, mainly just to serve as an additional reminder for anybody that may have missed it here on the channel. I've actually transitioned my Call of Duty content to a brand new channel, which is Exclusive Reloaded. So if you want to see more Black Ops 7 content from me going forward, please go over, subscribe to that channel. That's where my Black Ops 7 content will be, and turn notifications on if you don't want to miss any uploads. All right, now that we have that out of the way, let's get into my initial impressions of Black Ops 7, keeping in mind it's really early days, we're still in the honeymoon phase, and we haven't discovered all of the bugs and issues yet. I'm sure more will come up over time. And you know what, let's just start this off with the things I'm not loving so much so far, things I have some feedback on already, as well as some bugs that I've noticed. And the first thing, as more of a general broad topic, is just my general matchmaking experience. What I've noticed is if I play the open core mosh pit playlist in the game, this feels exactly like the open matchmaking from the beta build of the game for me. I'm getting really fast matchmaking times, really consistently good pings on average, and generally a wide array of experiences. I get some easy lobbies, which you'll probably end up seeing with the gameplays in the background, because of course I'm recording those ones. I've also had some extremely difficult lobbies. I've gotten beat up pretty good in some of those lobbies. And then I would say for the most part, there's a decent mix of players where there's usually like a good player or two on the other team, and then it's mostly average players and maybe a below average player mixed in there. And that's all great. That's what I was hoping to see with the launch of the game, with the open matchmaking, and that's what I'm getting in this open core mosh pit. However, a weird thing I've noticed is when I use the quick play filters, it feels like a very different experience from that. My matchmaking times tend to be a lot longer, even when selecting multiple modes, so that should increase the odds of finding a match really quickly. And I've been noticing more inconsistency with my connection experience as well when using quick play. Also, of course, this is all very anecdotal and just based on feels, so take it for what it's worth, but I do feel like, on average, the lobbies are more difficult as well in the quick play filters compared to that open core mosh pit. Now, the devs have reiterated that the matchmaking is the same between these two experiences, or at least it's meant to be the same, but I just can't help but feel that that isn't matching my experience. Now, this could be due to other factors like simply player behaviors, the types of players that are searching for these different modes, or maybe the amount of players that are searching for each mode, although it does seem strange that the majority would be going toward a mosh pit rather than selecting the exact game modes that they want, or a selection of the exact game modes they want with quick play. Or maybe something's just bugged out here where it's meant to have the same matchmaking, but there's some factor in there that's causing it to not feel like the same matchmaking. Or maybe this is placebo. Maybe it's confirmation bias. Maybe I started looking for this result, and that's why I'm seeing this trend when maybe it doesn't actually exist. In either case, I just wanted to share my feelings on this matter, and that's how I'm feeling right now. The open core mosh pit feels amazing. Quick play, not so much so far based on my experience. At the end of the day, this is something where I think I'm just going to let it settle in, and I'll just continue playing the open core mosh pit, and I'll keep checking back into quick play to see if things settle down and it starts feeling more like the matchmaking I was expecting to see. Either way, that's the first big topic I wanted to cover here, is how the matchmaking feels. Next up, I have a few gameplay related gripes, just some things that I'm not really a huge fan of. The first thing I noticed right away is the default minimap coverage. I don't know if they reverted this to the pre-patch in the beta, or if I just forgot how low the range is on that coverage, but man, it is painful using the default minimap in the game without the vigilance perk or standing within the radius of a squad link. I think part of this is also related to the fact that I'm still learning the maps, but I just often feel like I don't really know what's going on around me very well because that minimap coverage is so small. And as a result of this, I've already switched to using vigilance as a crutch perk. And I have this on literally every single one of my classes. And I don't know if that's really a good sign for perk balance if I'm already crutching pretty hard on a perk like that. In my opinion, a perk like that should feel more like a bonus where you get that additional benefit on top of something that's already solid. But in my eyes, if I'm not using vigilance, I feel like my minimap is almost worthless most of the time. And speaking of crutch perks, another perk I've been latching onto pretty hard lately for one specific reason is Cold-Blooded. And the entire reason I've latched onto Cold-Blooded so hard is the drone pod field upgrade. Now, perhaps these are just popping up more in the gameplay because I believe they're on the default class and they're one of the early unlocked field upgrades. So maybe that's why so many people are using these, but I'm just seeing these drone pods so often. And every time a single drone pod tower gets called in, I think it's 3 or maybe even 4 drones come out of that. And without Cold-Blooded, they're gonna latch onto you and come at you and blow up and either kill you or get you really low health to where you just can't win a gunfight at that point. And as a field upgrade, not a score streak, you don't have to earn this, you literally just charge it up over time. I really think this field upgrade is far too disruptive to the overall pacing and flow of a match in its current state. I'm not saying it's like straight up too deadly on its own and like the explosive radius is way too big and too powerful or anything. It's not about that, it's more so about how much a single drone pod can disrupt the entire flow of an area of the map for a decent period of time. It just seems like too much for a field upgrade. And again, this is why I just started using Cold-Blooded on everything, so I don't have to worry about those drone pods. If I see them go off, they just ignore me. And that's improved the gameplay experience quite a bit for me. And again, I don't like the fact that I already feel like I have 2 crutch perks this early on in the game in order to counteract very specific elements that could be adjusted by default to prevent them from being crutches or feeling like crutches. Now, another little thing I noticed while playing around with different score streaks is the Hellstorm. I was really looking forward to the Hellstorm until I called one in, and it takes like 10 seconds for an animation to play first. So if you call this in response to somebody like capturing your flag, well, by the time you actually gain control of the Hellstorm missile, they have not only capped the flag, they've also moved on and they're inside and completely in cover. So a very specific bit of feedback there, but man, can we get some improvements to the Hellstorm missile call-in time? I get it, you probably want to provide a little bit of counterplay by making sure the announcement comes in and players have a chance to maybe get to cover, but in its current state, it just takes you out of the fight for way too long. And unless this gets adjusted, I will never touch the Hellstorm again. It's awful. Next, just a very general note on weapon balance, keeping in mind it is still early days. I haven't even used every gun in the game yet. I've been trying to branch out a little bit. But just a general trend that I've noticed is it does seem like SMGs overall are weak in this game relative to the assault rifles, for instance. And as somebody that tends to lean in the direction of SMGs, I find that pretty unfortunate that I'm feeling way more comfortable, often in like close to medium ranges as well, with assault rifles rather than the SMGs in the game. And when I do use SMGs, or at least most of the SMGs, I feel very limited in my effective ranges with them compared to what we're used to seeing in Call of Duty. I'm not saying SMGs should be like dominating at mid to long range or anything, but they should at least be a lot more usable at mid range in my opinion, since the assault rifles do just fine up close against the SMGs while absolutely dominating them at mid to longer ranges. Next, let's talk about spawns a little bit. And I've got to say, in Domination and even Hardpoint, for the most part, I think the spawns are at least in a really good starting point to build off of. I'm sure there's going to be some tweaks and tuning that needs to take place across all modes, but I don't have any major complaints when it comes to Domination and Hardpoint spawns so far. Team Deathmatch style spawns, on the other hand, so for like Team Deathmatch and Kill Confirmed, I am not liking the spawn logic I've been experiencing so far in these modes. I've been noticing spawns are flipping way too often, and they don't really seem to be anchoring to like the back center of the map, creating a more linear flow. And the combination of this leads to a couple different issues. The first issue is I often find myself actively hunting and going for kills and trying to find kills, thinking I'm pushing up and maybe flanking into the enemy spawn all by myself, only to have multiple teammates suddenly spawn on me, even though I'm all by myself and approaching the enemy side of the map. Turns out they're not spawning there anymore, and therefore there are no kills to go around, and now the spawns have flipped, and it's running back to the other side of the map to try to find the kills, and often just repeating that process over and over again, maybe getting a kill or two in the process. And then the other issue that arises with this is it often just feels like everybody is scattered all around the map. There's no discernible map flow in many cases with these modes. It just seems like people are coming from every direction, and you've just got to try to keep your head on a swivel so you can shoot the enemies that are coming from opposite directions all the time. And none of this really feels good, in my opinion. I'm not saying spawns should be extremely sticky in Team Deathmatch, like compared to Domination or something like that, but I think a little bit stickier than what they currently are, and also perhaps anchoring back more toward the primary spawn areas would yield better results overall, so that there'd be much more discernible map flow, and it would allow you to balance your risk versus reward a lot more appropriately, because you would know if you're pushing into the enemy side of the map all alone, they're going to be spawning around you, and therefore there's going to be a higher risk attached to that, but also higher potential reward, because the spawns aren't just going to flip to the other side of the map, so you're only going to get maybe one kill, and then you have to run to the other side of the map to chase some more kills. And that's going to wrap it up for my primary gameplay feedback that I've got so far. Again, I'm sure many more things will come up as time goes on. Next, I want to have a little section here on obvious bugs that are in the game, and the first one is really annoying. I'm sure most of you guys that have played have experienced this at some point. This is the bug where when using quick play, You select the modes that you want to play, you search for a game, it'll get you into one of those modes, as expected. But you might notice if you leave that lobby or if you press the button to search for a new lobby, it automatically inverts your selection. So if I go in just wanting to play Domination, after I leave and try to search for a new match, it will have everything in my quick play filter selected aside from Domination. And this is happening really consistently. It's super frustrating. I'm sure they're aware of this. This will likely get fixed in the near future, but it needed to be pointed out because it is a very annoying bug. Next up, a little thing I've noticed that I was looking forward to in this game, but it doesn't seem to be working properly. This is the ability to edit your attachments while in the firing range without having to back out to the menu in order to do that. They mentioned we'd be able to do this, and you can see the control mappings are there. Like, you're supposed to have that functionality, but when you press the button to edit your loadout, nothing happens. So hopefully they can get on top of that one as well. And then another thing I've been noticing sometimes, it's really not all the time, but I have been noticing, well, lobbies are meant to stick together between every game, and if you stay in the lobby, you should be able to stay in that lobby for good. They have been disbanding on me sometimes. It's fairly rare that this is happening to me. Usually, if I want to stay in the lobby, I can stay in the lobby, but from time to time, it just seems like the lobby collapses, and I guess that did happen very rarely back in the day as well, but I think that was more so when like everybody else backed out and then it would just try to merge you into a new lobby. So I don't know, perhaps this isn't actually a bug or an issue. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining too hard here. I am really glad that at least the vast majority of times, the lobby will persist, unlike recent years, which is amazing to have. It's just something I wanted to point out. Sometimes it does seem to disband automatically. And then one last technical issue I wanted to bring up here that I've noticed, but thankfully I've only noticed this a few times here or there. These are some really strange feeling, like little teleports. And the weird thing about this is it doesn't feel like rubber banding or network related skipping. It really feels like it's on the game's end. Like my character will just teleport like a meter to the left or to the right or forward, or my aim will suddenly jump literally from one frame to the next. It'll jump over. And that's obviously a big issue when that happens. Again, like I said, it's been very rare for me, but when it happens, it's obviously like, what just happened there? Like I had no control over my character. So whatever that is, I hope that gets worked out. And then I just wanted to amplify the voices of a lot of people I've seen in the community, especially on Xbox, but I've been hearing this from some PlayStation players as well. A lot of people seem to be having a lot of stuttering issues with the game. Lots of little skips and stutters. I haven't experienced that at all myself, just this little teleporting issue, but I've had so many people asking about this because they're experiencing this themselves. So that's something I really hope they can get on top of for everybody that is having that particular issue, because it does seem to be fairly widespread. And there we go. When it comes to the issues I've had so far with the game, that pretty much covers it. Those are the primary things that come to mind. So now let's get into what I'm liking about the game. And the reason I saved this for the end of the video rather than the beginning like I normally do is, despite all those issues I've run into so far, I am loving this game. Like, this game was genuinely built for me. This is offering so much of what I look for in a Call of Duty game. At least in the open core mosh pit, the matchmaking is feeling incredible. It's so fast. Connection experience, very consistent overall. A little bit of desync as well, some games. I should have mentioned that earlier, but honestly, it hasn't been as bad as most launches for me, so didn't really like pop into my mind as an immediate thing. But for the most part, my connection experience has been very good. The matchmaking has also just felt very mixed skill-wise, which has been excellent. The general gameplay flow outside of Team Deathmatch with their spawns has also felt really good overall. The gunplay overall feels great as well, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they really toned back the aim assist in this game relative to previous Call of Duty games, which if you guys are looking for some details on that, I did cover at least some of the details of that nerf in yesterday's video on the new channel, and I will leave that link down below as well as in the end card of this video. So make sure you check that out if you guys haven't yet, but they have very drastically nerfed the aim assist, and from my perspective, this feels great. Not only is it nice to feel actually challenged when it comes to hitting shots consistently, for a long time in Call of Duty, I've kind of just been on autopilot when it comes to aim, and well, of course, you could focus up a little bit and get better aim than the average player with the old aim assist. At the end of the day, the aiming skill gap on controller wasn't really a super high gap, and now it is. And on the receiving end of that as well, if I notice a player is just consistently melting me, especially if I'm implementing movement, and they're just very consistently killing me, at least I know that is a really good player with really good fundamentals, and he deserved those kills. Either that or a cheater, but I do play with console-only crossplay for the most part, and therefore I don't really jump to this guy's cheating every time I get outplayed. More often than not, I just accept the fact that, hey, that's actually a good player, and I move on. So again, at least from my perspective, I'm really enjoying the adjusted aim assist. After that, the maps, overall, really enjoying the maps in this game. It was a huge step up from Black Ops 6, especially the launch maps with Black Ops 6, so very happy to see that. Now after that, while I haven't spent a ton of time with this yet, Specialist. I love the fact that Specialist is back. It is a wild card in the game, and this allows you to earn your perks instead of your score streak rewards as you go on a streak. And once you get that bonus, it feels great. You feel like a little super soldier. I absolutely love that. I missed Specialist so much, and I'm glad to see it here. Even in a Treyarch game, it's quite surprising to see it, but it's here. Also, I would say the general perk system, outside of the crutchiness that I mentioned in my dislike section, I am liking how the perk system is feeling overall. I do think if they were to adjust that base minimap zoom level a little bit and improve that slightly so it didn't feel like Vigilance was as necessary, then that would open up that perk slot a lot more for me. And then if something were done about the drone pods as well, then I would feel a lot more comfortable branching outside of Cold-Blooded. But again, outside of those things, I really like the perk balance. I like the hybrid combat specialties as well. That's a big step up from the standard combat specialties we had last year. So I don't feel as locked to ensuring that I'm always using the same colors. I can mix and match a lot more while still getting a bonus benefit, and that's really nice. And then finally, on the multiplayer side of things, I just wanted to mention the progression so far is looking great. There's so many things to work toward. It's nice to have another camo grind. The camo grind overall, so far, based on my experience, seems very reasonable, while still providing a solid grind and challenges attached to that. I love the fact that weapon prestige is here, even though I haven't really had an opportunity to interact with that system yet. I really like the fact that it's available. And I think that's all great. So overall, when it comes to multiplayer, I am loving it so far, despite the fact that I've got a few issues here and I know new ones will come up. I really do think this game has the makings of being a top 5 all-time Call of Duty game for me, maybe even better, obviously depending on how they handle things post-launch. We don't know what's going to go on with all of that, but they've got all of the building blocks for this being one of my favorite Call of Duty games of all time. I mean, they check so many boxes off of my wish list, and I am really, really happy with this game. And that's just focusing on the multiplayer side as well. I have dabbled a little bit with Endgame, and I really like Endgame too. I was a big fan of Modern Warfare Zombies, not as a replacement for round-based zombies, but just as its own thing. I enjoyed Modern Warfare Zombies, and Endgame is just Modern Warfare Zombies with more going on in it. And they've really dialed up what you can do and the progression that's attached to your character and everything. And I love that. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that you have to complete the campaign just to access Endgame. I would love to see them drop that requirement maybe down the road. Like, I get they want to encourage people to play campaign, but I think at some point it should just be freely accessible to anybody, because I think it's a great change of pace if you're looking for a PvE experience that's a lot more laid back and more social. But with all of that out of the way, those are my thoughts so far on Black Ops 7. I'm feeling very optimistic and very positive overall, despite the fact that there are some things that need to be taken care of. There are some clear issues here, definitely some annoying elements and some bugs that need to be worked out. But of course, these are just my opinions, and this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about Black Ops 7 so far, now that we've had some time to get our hands on the game? Are you guys generally enjoying it? Or maybe not so much? Maybe is it just not a COD for you? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to go over to the new channel and subscribe if you're looking to watch some more Black Ops 7 content from me, if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.